morning, respected speakers and dignitaries on the online platform. Today is a great day where Indian Concrete Institute Bangalore Center has joined hands with RV Institute of Technology and QCrete Ready Mix Concrete to give a webinar on misconceptions and facts about ready mix concrete. Dear friends, the journey of ready mix concrete started way back in 1992 in India. The first plant was established in Pune. The journey has grown fast. It's the fastest in the world, where today we are having more than 7,000 RMC plants across the length and breadth of the country, and the ready mix plants are there in more than 300 cities. So we are producing almost about 350 million tons of cement. Globally, 60% of the cement produced by cement companies goes to ready mix plants. But in India, still we are in the infancy stage. About 20, earlier it was 15%, now it has gone to 20%. I was the one who published a first paper on the growth story of ready mix concrete industry in India, where I had tabulated the RMC plants across India, where and how many plants are there. So the numbers are increasing every month, and also the cement going to ready mix concrete industry is increasing. Along with that, the ready mix industry has helped to use supplementary cementitious materials like fly ash and GGBS, metakaolin, microsilica. Engineer V.R. Kaushik was the one who started using fly ash in ready mix when he was in RMC India. I was also part of the same company. We were working together. So earlier people used to only use OPC cement for making concrete, ready mix concrete. So Kaushik, along with the UK experts, when it was part of RMC UK globally, they started using fly ash. The results were out, and strength parameters improving, the durability parameters were there. So the adaptation of fly ash happened. Then later on, GGBS came by a well-known steel company in India, started producing GGBS in 2008. So then that product got adopted. So now all RMC plants either use fly ash or GGBS or a triple blend. They make a triple blend. They use all these products to make concrete, quality concrete and durable concrete. So the industry is growing very fast. But what's happening? Earlier, the ready mix industry was controlled by corporates like Ultratech, ACC, then RDC Concrete, then RMC Ready Mix India, many Aramco industry, many cement companies and corporate companies started ready mix. But later on, many individual owners, pressure owners, people are having plants, they all started putting the RMC plants. The growth happened because the corporate companies could not cater to the demand of the ready mix concrete. It is growing, but what has happened? Many people who don't have technical knowledge about ready mix concrete, how to make concrete, they've all joined the bandwagon, thinking that there's a great money. Somebody was telling me, owning a RMC plant is a prestige. That is the way landlords are looking at. If they have a land somewhere in Whitefield or Yelahanka side, they put a RMC plant just to marry up their son. My son is the owner of an RMC plant. Look at the status, how it has become. So actually, our ready mix concrete or concrete making is a science and art. You have to properly do the mix design, properly control the quality, and also when we deliver the concrete to the site, it should have the proper workability. All these things are very important. So, but unfortunately, we are facing problem. RMCMA came, then association came, then they wanted to improve quality systems. So there are so many plants, more than 5,000 plants or 7,000 plants are there. Or in Bangalore itself, there are more than 500 RMC plants. Hardly 10 to 15 companies have joined the certification, QCI certification. Rest and all they're doing on their own. Nobody is questioning them. IS code is there. But we need to produce good quality and use this concrete so that the structures what we build should be long lasting, durable, and the life cycle cost and sustainability is achieved. So engineer V.R. Kaushik as an expert, I know him personally since 1992. So one of the oldest friend of mine in the industry, I'm proud to say. And he has done a lot of research work on admixtures, mineralite mixtures, concrete. I can say he's an encyclopedia on concrete technology. So today we have this great person delivering the lecture. I am thankful to him for addressing the gathering. Already we have got 315. So he has become a good speaker. We have got a good audience today. Over to Professor Dhanush to take it forward. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
Jai Bharat Mate.
Good morning to everyone who's joined us here for today's webinar on misconception and facts about RMC by Engineering VR Kaushika. It is my privilege to be introducing our speaker for the day. Sir is currently working as the director for Q-Crete Ready Mix India Private Limited. Sir has previously worked as the director of marketing and technical at ECMAS Construction Chemicals Private Limited. Sir is a civil engineering graduate from PS College of Engineering, Mandya, and also holds an MBA degree from Alliance Business School, Bangalore. He has also completed a course on concrete technology from City and Guilds, London. For the last 30 years, Sir has worked in the field of concrete, admixtures, construction chemicals, and also in various positions in the RMC industry. Sir has also worked in Oman in Saudi Arabia in the field of ready-mix concrete for a period of about 4 years. Sir has published many articles in many engineering journals, magazines, and on various aspects of chemical admixtures and concrete. Sir has also been very actively involved in training technical and sales teams, involved in spreading the awareness of various materials that is used in concrete through various lectures and forums such as these webinars, and also in institutes like NCBM and ESCI. Sir has worked extensively in practical applications of different kinds of supplementary cementitious materials, admixtures, and was also responsible for the commercialization of blended concrete in a huge way. He's also worked in the field of low cement content based composites, that's basically the triple blend cements, and also studied the durability aspects before commercialization of the such techno-economical mixes. Sir, thank you for being with us here today. A small note to all the attendees here: if you have any questions, you can use the question tab to ask questions. We shall direct them to Sir towards the end. Sir, I now request you to take over the session and address the gathering today. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning to all the participants, and I welcome all of you to this webinar, which is going to be on misconceptions about the ready-mix concrete and the facts which we want to share with you. And I take this opportunity to thank Dr. Radhakrishna of RVCE, Dhanush of RVCE, and Mr. Manjunath, Dr. Manjunath, my friend, for this beautiful introduction. Thanks a lot, and I hope in the coming 1 hour's time, or 1 hour, 15 minutes, 20 minutes time, I'll be able to share some of my experience and thoughts about the different misconceptions we have and the facts associated with them. So, misconceptions rule the world actually. As long as misconceptions are at personal level, they are okay. The danger to the world is when facts are not understood and accepted. That is the problem. And people believe their own misconceptions as facts. So misconceptions make this world in a way beautiful, because like we say, you will appreciate light because of darkness. Similarly, you appreciate facts only when the misconceptions are there. Commercial ready-mix concrete started booming in India on 1999 onwards actually. And some multinational companies came to India also during that period actually. And even though A German architect patented this ready-mix concrete technology in around 1903, almost more than 100 years ago. And then ready-mix started booming in UK and Australia, starting from 1930s, 1940s. Still, almost after a century, we have a lot of misconceptions. And this webinar or lecture is an attempt to talk about those misconceptions and draw the attention of customers and civil engineers who are associated with concrete to the facts. So you can say when we started, when I was in RMZ India about in 1999, 2000, at that time also we had all these misconceptions. And unfortunately, many times we hear similar and same misconceptions once in a while before either selection of ready-mix concrete or when a project comes up, we get into these discussions, which is sometimes I feel it is unfortunate because a lot of dissemination of knowledge and awareness has been happening through various forums, but still we have to talk again and again on the same subject because the application of the facts and application of various methodologies which we used to describe for last 20 years is still yet to be seen on ground in many cases actually. So one of the misconceptions is that I was using conventional concrete and I used to get better strength. This is one of the misconceptions actually. So about 3 weeks ago, there was a call from Mumbai, and one of the caller, he identified himself as a 73-year-old man and a professional, and he said, Kaushik, what are you doing? I'm working as a technical head for this company, Yogreet Ready-Mix India Limited. Then he said that no, none of the companies in India have seen do good concrete. They don't supply good concrete. They fall short of quality in many places. Okay, I don't believe all this. This kind of question he asked actually. So I didn't want to argue much because he himself identified that he's a professional with about more than about 50-60 years experience in the construction industry. But I hope if he comes across this kind of webinar here, some of the points will be clarified to him actually. Now, in site mix concrete, we used to talk about a lot about site mix concrete 20 years back, and unfortunately we have to talk again and again. There is a random spilling of aggregates. Storage is bad. You can see the cement being stored openly. There's no protection from moisture for the cement, and you can see the sand, which is kind of a reddish in color, maybe having a lot of silt content. So these are the things which happen in a site mix situation. These pictures have captured a glimpse of that actually. The era of site mixed concrete is getting lesser and lesser, even though, as Dr. Manjunath mentioned, that there is no proper conversion like in other countries, which is about 60 to 70% of cement produced goes into the ready-mix industries, and even the plasters and other things are all pre-packed and pre-produced, and with assurance comes to the customers actually. So there is not much of site mixing, either it is whether it is ready mix or it is mortars or whatever it is. Okay. So engineers, concrete buyers have found ready mix concrete more convenient than site mixed concrete simply because of speed at which concrete structures can be built, finished using ready mix concrete. So this is the age of speed. So everybody is in a race, whether it is in education or whether it is in personal life or in whatever way, everybody is in a race to do things faster. Okay. So in construction also the speed at which the buildings are being built has phenomenally increased. We hear stories that somebody built in China in 24 hours, 3-floor building, 4-floor story building, things like that actually. So all this can be made possible, is possible only with the help of ready-mix concrete, and there is no substitute at this moment for ready-mix concrete to which can really come to this speed, match this speed actually. Earlier, conventional mixes used to be having more cements than required, and we used to have, for example, M25 at 1.5, 3 mix actually, which was resulting approximately about 400 kg per cubic meter of cement actually. And when we were selling admixtures 91 to 94 at the time, means it was our primary job to talk about the cement saving to the customers, how we can save cement by using admixtures. So at that time we used to make trials at say 1.5, 3, which is about 400 kg cement, and bring down to maybe 340 or 350. Okay. So that is how we used to establish the cement savings actually. So at a point of time, PWD, CPWD, and all these agencies used to have these specifications 1.5, 3, 1, 2, 4, things like that. And from that point, we have moved a lot thanks to ready-mix concrete industry and a lot of booming up of both corporate and non-corporate players. Sometimes whenever the water cement ratio was used correctly, okay, in site mix there is no much control on water cement ratio. It is left to the whims and fancies of the masons or the people who are really adding water. So accidentally sometimes, okay, by God's grace, whenever the water cement ratio becomes okay, in such cases, even the volumetric concrete used to yield higher strengths actually. So that was taken as a benchmark, and some people used to tell no, we have to importance of material properties like silt content, things like that. Ultimately, if the concrete quality, all the parameters, strength and slump, everything comes okay, it was purely probably because of some experienced mason was operating the small mixer and he was adding the water rightly, and the cement content used was more, and that is how they used to achieve better quality through site mix. And it was many times, maybe more than 50-60% of the times, it was rather lower strengths and low grade quality with a lot of honeycombing. I have seen a lot of sites actually where site mix was done and a lot of honeycombing had come because of poor gradation of aggregates selected, and they used to use 20 mm earlier. So we used to have all these problems, and it is a real misconception that if somebody says that site mix used to be better. So modern cements admixtures, mineral admixtures are used in computer controlled batching plants, which are made possible to produce M25 today at 320 kg cementitious. Not only cement, 320 cementitious. Sometimes we use GGBS or fly ash in this, and the results. This results in what is required, that strength and properties of concrete. So ready-mix concrete industry, ready-mix concrete companies give just what is required, what strength is required, and what properties are required. Only that is given actually. Here the mix designs are done to meet the requirements of customers as per BIS codal provisions, and hence the factory produced concretes just are tailor made to the customer requirements. So customer comes up with different requirements. Somebody can come with a early strength, somebody can come with a 3-day strength, and somebody can come with different flow properties. Somebody wants SCC, somebody wants a highly flow concrete with conventional admixtures, things like that. So all these are made possible with automated batching plants, where the recipes are fed and mixed designs are done prior to production of concrete, and greater degree of control is exercised. In short, we can say ready-mix concrete has brought in better quality of concrete, speed of construction, very fast construction. You can say uncomparable at many points to site mix concrete. No storage hassles, and there is no throwing around of materials on the road. And in other countries, we are fortunate to be here. We can do whatever we want. We can throw wherever we want, whatever we want. Okay, nobody questions us actually. But other countries, throwing up aggregates, storing up aggregates on road. You can say you stopping the traffic with the mixers on road. All this is not allowed, and spilling of either concrete or aggregates on road is punishable in other countries. Hence, ready-mix concrete is must in many countries. Less labor requirement, less wastage of materials, life cycle cost of construction is better because we are enhancing the durability by usage of alternative cementitious systems actually. And eco-friendly again, we are reducing the usage of OPC, incorporating other materials, and hence the overall concrete becomes greener. So ready-mix concrete as a whole has shifted from, you can say, larger usage of older kind of cement, which you can say the Portland OPC cement, to cementitious systems, where the entire concrete has been pushed to the level of greener concrete and eco-friendly concrete, which cannot be achieved by site mixes. So again, as a misconception, second misconception is again quality of concrete earlier was better. This is an extension of what I was telling, the first misconception, which is again, the statement is very subjective. If somebody says like that, earlier site mixed concrete many times had no control of water cement ratio, which we discussed. Most importantly, deciding factor of strength and durability. Water cement ratio is the key. We keep on talking about this one. Also, there was no quality assurance. So there was no quality assurance from anybody when we were doing site mix. Okay. Here in ready-mix concrete, now the RMCMA Association, along with Quality Control, Quality Council of India, has come up with third-party audits, which has a lot of auditors working around the country who certify the plants for the capability, whether the plant is capable to produce concrete in an effective way, which completely complies with the requirements of IS 4926. So this is the certification given by third-party agencies for ready-mix companies, who go through the checklist and who maintain all the systems, quality management systems, in a religious way. So that kind of assurance you cannot expect in a site mix situation. And here is the big difference. The ready-mix company, any ready-mix company, gives the product with complete quality assurance, and many of the companies, like Dr. Manjunath mentioned, many of the companies have gone through this process of complete third-party audit, and we are certified. We are certified to produce good quality concrete as per the requirements of IS 4926. Many times, the concrete quality suffers or becomes inferior due to inappropriate practices in transporting, placing, finishing. Placing and finishing, and curing, mostly due to lack of awareness of QAQC aspects of ready-mix, and lack of supervision of ready-mix concrete at sites, even when good degree of QAQC aspects are exercised that produces point. It is not only the producer who is responsible, which is again a misconception. So a producer can give the best concrete, but later on the other operations, other things in the chain of until the delivery and until the concrete is finished, lot of things can happen. So when we met a builder, good reputed builder in Bangalore about 2 months ago, when we started talking about ready-mix concrete and our company and things like that, he said that you can produce good concrete, but what happens afterwards till pour starts and after the pouring is over is 66%. It is our responsibility. 66% is he himself told that it is 66%. 33% is your job, 66% is our job, because a lot of things can happen after the concrete leaves the plant and reaches and then gets glazed and finished. So among all the misconceptions that are floating around, you can say this builder is a kind of a shot in the arm, you can say. You can say it is a fresh aroma in the industry where somebody has understood that the responsibility not only lies with the producer, but responsibility is bigger with the user. So this is a kind of I can say some people really have matured in terms of understanding and using these material, which has traveled a lot, I can say, from about the patenting of this ready-mix concrete from 1903. The other misconception, once the concrete truck reaches the site, as a customer, we can use as we want. Yes, customer pays for the concrete, but it doesn't mean that he can use as he wants. Okay, before the ready-mix truck reaches site, all preparations must be completed to receive and place the concrete in intended structures. IS 4926 specifically says that the concrete, once produced, has to be used within 2 hours. Once the cement comes in touch with water, the time starts actually, and the concrete has to be better used within 2 hours. Unless otherwise, the concrete is produced in winter conditions, or unless otherwise the concrete is mixed with superplasticizer, that especially superplasticizers or retarders, or kind of a type G admixture, which is superplasticizing and retarding admixture. So otherwise you have to use the concrete within 2 hours actually. So why this particular point has been raised is the quality is a function of time actually. Quality is a function of time. We can see any PC based admixture, which is very popularly used now throughout India. This is a pictographic representation of slump retention actually. Of course, this is just a very rough sketch actually, or a rough graph actually, where the slump goes on reducing actually. So it doesn't mean that once the truck reaches your site or any customer site actually, it doesn't mean that once the slump is, say for example, somebody says I want 120 mm on site. So if the concrete reaches at 120 mm to this site, it goes on reducing, and within half an hour to 1 hour it may reach maybe 80 mm or sometimes 60 to 80 mm actually. It depends upon so many other factors, external factors like ambient temperature, things like that. So it doesn't mean that once the truck reaches that site at 120 mm or 130 mm or say 150 mm, it doesn't have the same slump forever actually. As the time passes, within probably 1.5 hours, it will reach a situation where it probably sometimes may be unpumpable. It will become unpumpable. So we need to understand that once the truck reaches the site, let us say the ready-mix company has given the, let us say the ready-mix concrete company has supplied the concrete. Let us say the ready-mix concrete company has supplied at right slump to the site. The responsibility is to use as quick as possible Responsibility of the customer to use the ready-mix concrete as quick as possible, possibly generally not more than say 3 to hours maximum, 3 to 4 hours maximum, when the concrete includes superplasticizer come retarder. Typically, as most of the ready-mix company use ASTM C494 type G admixture, or unless otherwise there is clear data to show that with some special admixtures methods, concrete slump is maintained for 4 to 5 hours. So there was a situation where some trials were done, and we had used a PC-based, strong PC-based admixture, high-end PC-based admixture at a good dosage, where the slump was retained for 4 to 5 hours. So this gives an open time of 4 to 5 hours, where after 5 hours or 4.5 hours, we get a slump of about 120 mm to 130 mm. So this is a special case. And in some such special cases, if you want to implement on site, there should be proper data. A lot of trials have to be done, and then concrete can be used for 4 to 5 hours. Otherwise, we have to limit the usage of concrete. Especially, I'm talking about higher grades of concrete, starting from 30, 35, 40 onwards. As early as possible, it has to be used. Otherwise, the concrete properties will become question mark. So, what we do, many times is we try to add admixture on site to boost the slump, which is allowed in IS 4926, and sometimes what happens is the labor at site, supervisors of site, in the absence of engineers, they will add water on site, which has to be avoided actually, which has to be clearly avoided actually. So in other countries, when I was working with my boss, Marcus Ravensburger, in RMZ India, around 2000, in the year 2000. So he used to tell me that in other countries like UK, addition of water is allowed 6 liters per cubic meter to boost the slump, to rejuvenate the slump. But we took a decision here that we will not allow addition of water on site because it will be uncontrollable and it is difficult to control on many sites. And then we said only by admixture we will rejuvenate the slump actually. So boosting the slump on site with a small dosage of admixture is allowed as per AS 4926. A lot of literature is there, a lot of trials have been done around the world where this is allowed. There is again a misconception. Some people don't want to allow addition of admixture on site. So they say the ready-mix company has to supply an exact slump to the site, and they will not allow any lower slump on site. So the answer is that even in countries, cold countries, even in cold countries where the slump loss is very less because the temperatures are lower, the allowances given is greater than what is happening in India. In India, plus or minus 25 mm or 1/3, whichever is greater. But in other countries, there is class of slump S1, S2, S3, where you have slumps ranging from one class S2, S3, and all, where the slump can be between 150 to 210, things like that. So when this kind of big ranges are given in other countries, even in colder climates, we can also have a look into such things, because it is very, very difficult exactly to supply at the right slump to a particular site, which is about 1.5 hours or 2 hours away from the ready-mix company or ready-mix plant location. So we need to understand that sometimes because of higher ambient temperature or because of so many other reasons, it can happen that a ready-mix truck reaches the site at a lower slump. So rejuvenation of slump or reboosting, boosting the slump to required level by chemical admixture is allowed. It has scientific basis. It is also approved in IS 4926. Okay. Now we should not add water. Okay, and For this, to avoid such problems of loss of slump and using of lower slump concrete or accepting lower slump concrete and using it for columns and all, the customers can take part loads. Of course, the part loads can become costly, but it is of no cost actually. It is not a significant cost when compared to the total project cost. Customers also, to avoid such problems of addition of water on site and all, nowadays many customers have shifted to ordering 1 or 2 grades higher with ready mix company, especially for columns actually, which is a welcome thing that they are doing actually. We need to also see that proper pre-pour inspection. Ready mix company, as a ready mix company, we also do pre-pour inspection. We also do pre-pour site meeting. So any last minute changes, customer has to inform in advance to postpone the pour. So once the truck reaches, he cannot say he is not ready actually. So as per IS 4926, it very clearly states, IS 4926, that once the truck reaches the site, 30 minutes time is allowed for the customer to start pouring the concrete actually. So if beyond 30 minutes, if the site is not prepared or anything like that, it is the responsibility of the customer actually. So customer has to be aware of this, and there should be 100% preparedness. I also bring this to the attention of everybody here, that the very important graph where the water cement ratio versus strength has been depicted actually. Here, let us say a ready mix company brings the concrete, so let us say M50 concrete or M40 concrete comes to the site actually. So as we shift the water cement ratio, as we go on using more and more water, if we add water on site, for example, the strength will shift to the right hand side and the strength goes on decreasing actually. So a concrete producer can bring the concrete, produce the concrete with all the best practices. And when the truck reaches, if you are adding water, the customer has easily converted this concrete from, let us say, M30 or M40 to M20 or M25 actually just by adding water. So this is a wrong practice, and this wrong practice can, what happens is it will bring a bad name to the ready mix company. So later on, the customer, what he says is the ready mix concrete is not good, it is not fit for use, something has happened. All these questions will come because of this misunderstanding or non-implementation of this graph. When we order ready mix concrete, we get less quantity. So this is another misconception which is many times floats around actually, and we need to understand that mix design is done as per guidelines of IS 10262. The principles adopted here to implement the mix design is world class, and the best batching plants are used actually. So the batching plants, if we visit UK or if we visit any other country, and if we come back to India, the batching plants are of same standard. Now we have a standard also, IS 4925. So batching plants are produced with the best quality materials, and the software, everything is up to the order. Calibration is done in time, everything is okay. Then in such situations, there is no way that a ready mix company gives a lesser quantity. Okay, this is a misconception actually. In the mix design, ingredients are calculated to give 1 metric cube of concrete. So in short, what is mix design? Mix design is also a method of putting some numbers by using specific gravity and other properties of materials, where the mix, once it is mixed and once it is produced, it will give 1 cubic meter. So when everything is done properly with a pre-selected set of materials, it is supposed to give 1 cubic meter once we do as per the principles. The mix is continuously evaluated for actual performance, like yield daily by ready mix producer as per IS 1199. The yield is monitored every day. So all these procedures are done. Yield is checked every day. Weights of the trucks batched are taken every day, and these are tallied actually. The theoretical density and plastic density of the mixes are tallied, and yield is calculated, and the yield has to be between 0.98 to 1.02. So these are practices which are regularly followed by a reputed ready mix company, especially a QCA certified ready mix company. Unless otherwise, the calibration of batching plant has completely failed or not done, or the set of ingredients considered during design. So if we have done lab trials during the approval with one set of aggregates, and if we change it later on for some reason, whatever reason, then only some changes can occur. Otherwise, ready mix concrete producers deliver exact quantity as ordered. Variations can occur because of errors in estimation of actual quantity of concrete. So if, for example, some chajjas are missed, some beams are missed, or something like that happens, there may be a difference in estimation of the actual quantity required. Errors in maintaining thickness, that is a most important point actually. For example, a 10 centimeter thick concrete, it has to be laid at 10 centimeter, let us say, but somebody for some reason doesn't supervise properly, and if the thickness goes more, then the quantity difference will come. And sometimes it also happens in a big project. If we are supplying concrete for a big project, the diversions will take place. So somebody will be casting column, somebody will be casting staircase. So they will divert the truck, and that will not be recorded sometimes. And because of that, many times the problem of short quantity comes into picture. Otherwise, as long as the mix design is okay, as long as we're using the same materials which we have selected during the trials, there will not be any variation between the yield, or I mean to say theoretical density and plastic density, and hence the yield will be all right. Some customers have their own ideas actually, like everybody in this country has expertise in different fields, and many of the experts are experts on all fields sometimes actually. So they come up with the new ideas that we have to do this yield test with 1 cubic meter of box actually. So the concrete producer has to make 1 cubic meter, and he has to fill up the 1 cubic meter box actually. So there is no test like this actually. This is not a valid test. No code, IS code at least, will not talk about this kind of boxes actually. And so there's no this kind of test becomes invalid actually. So concrete once delivered to site must give proper strength. So this is a very important point actually. So it is natural that once the customer asks M25, a ready mix company is supposed to give M25. There is no doubt about it actually. But we need to consider other things. Concrete delivered by a ready mix concrete producer will reach the desired potential strength as per the intentions only if concrete is transported, placed, compacted, finished, and cured properly. So all these activities after production also have very great importance actually. And if there is some problem in transportation, some problem in placement or compaction or anything like that, variations can occur instance actually. So sampling itself is a neglected area actually. So many times the sampling is done as per the whims and fancies of people, either at site or if there is a if the concrete producer himself is not aware of a proper sampling procedure, they will also do mistakes, and improper sampling will definitely lead to improper results actually. So IS 4926 clearly states about the sampling method. We have been talking about this one, and I would like to again and again talk about this one, because if the sampling method is not done, not adopted properly, there is no way we can expect the right strength actually. So these are all appearance strengths actually. Appearance strength means the concrete may be having proper strength actually, but because of the sampling, this concrete will show or give a different strength actually. So when the truck mixer comes, the first part, from the first part, you have to leave about 0.3 cubic meters, 0.3 cubic meters of concrete onto the pump. It should be continuously, concrete has to be flowing actually, and then the concrete sample has to be collected in several scoops actually. When the concrete is continuously flowing at about equal intervals, it may not be possible exactly to take equal intervals, but approximately equal intervals, we have to collect sample from the concrete which is flowing from the truck chute onto the pump actually. So this is the method of collecting the sample as far as you have to collect sufficient sample for slump test as well as tube test actually. That is what it means actually. So you have to leave about 0.3 cubic meters of concrete. So what the other standards say, the other standards like BS 1881, BSEN 1350, all these standards, even ASTM C 494, talk in depth about the sampling method actually. Here, both ASTM and equivalent BS4 talk about leaving the first part and last part actually. So when the truck mixer is about 6 cubic meters, you have to leave first cubic meter and last cubic meter and take the sample in between actually, in between. And this is called the standard method. And in this standard method, the collection of concrete takes place sufficient for making cubes as well as for a slump test actually. This is also referred to as a composite sample. This is a composite test actually, composite sample. A composite sample will be sufficient to take enough cubes, 3 cubes plus 3 cubes or something like that, and then we can take a slump test actually. There is an alternative method which is also called as a SWOT sample, where you can check the workability. You can check the workability of concrete. Say, for example, we have a doubt when the customer has a doubt about the slump actually. So he can take a SWOT sample and he can use the alternative method where he will allow 0.3 cubic meters to be discharged, and then he will take scopefuls in the next 0.3 cubic meters. It is something like the Indian code actually, IS 4926 method actually. So this has to be religiously adopted actually. So we prefer to use a composite sample or the standard test method actually. So this method, if we don't adopt actually, definitely there will be variation in the slump and hardened properties of concrete, because it is not easy. For example, let us say a truck carries about 6 cubic meters of concrete, 6 into 2,400, so about 14 to 15 tons of material will be there. In that, from that material, we have to draw a sample for about 6 cubes, which is about 50 to 60 kgs of sample is required. So it is not easy actually, unless otherwise you adopt a proper procedure of sampling. You will get a wrong sample, and then it will lead to wrong interpretations. So this is one point which we need to take care. Then trained technicians are required. We need to have technicians with us on site who take the samples with proper IS procedure. IS procedure is clearly defined as per IS 1199, how to compact the cubes, 150 mm by 150 mm by 150 mm cubes, 3 layers, 35 strokes each. And if the person is not trained, so he will not cast the cubes properly. So then you will have different results actually. So this graph very clearly says that if the compaction is not done properly, there will be loss of strength actually. Also, we have other information, which is that each 1% uncompacted concrete will give a loss of about 5 to 6% of strength actually. So we need to be mindful of the fact that we train the technicians we train the people who cast the cubes on site regularly, and we don't change actually. Many sites, what happens is this cube casting is a neglected area. They will go on changing the people who cast the cubes. Okay, and hence it will lead to a lot of problems later on. So we have this very, we can say, famous pictographical representation. A lot of work was done by J.D. Devar and Anderson, who have made this chart actually, a pictographical representation of effects of different parameters on strength of concrete. So which says that sampling error is going to give a plus or minus on the actual strength. Failure to remix sample, which is important. If we just collect and don't mix the sample, it is going to be a problem. Distorted cube molds, incomplete compaction, curing temperature outside the permitted range actually. So we have seen in the last, you can say 20 years, many ready-mix companies, forget about the project sites, many ready-mix companies, they don't cure the concrete cubes as it has to be cured at 27 plus or minus 2 degrees actually. So they don't take care to see that 27 plus or minus 2 degrees curing takes place. And they also don't see that whether the cubes are cured properly on site, and this will lead to a lot of discussions, arguments, disagreements. Okay, where people will go on talking about everything is done right, but your cubes have given different results, and all these discussions will come into play. So the basic things like what troubles us is, when we follow proper standards, all standards, when we are testing steel, when we are testing cement. So what is the problem for us to follow standards when we are testing concrete actually? So this you can say concrete is just like that. You can cast some cubes in whatever molds you have, and you can cure in tanks, unclean tanks where water is not changed, where temperature is not maintained, and then expect the strengths to be all right is expecting every time something, a miracle to happen. It will happen sometimes, it will not happen sometimes. Lack of continuous moist curing, faulty cube location, and there are many companies who don't have calibrated equipment, especially some project sites where they don't bother about calibration of CTM, and it will also lead to many strength problems actually. So to recap, wrong sampling, not mixing the concrete sample, improper casting by untrained technicians, not protecting concrete cubes once cast actually. So let us say we have cast the cubes, and if it is not protected against sunlight and quick evaporation, and if it is not kept in curing tank in right time, then also we will get problem. Not curing properly, discontinuous curing. Okay, curing water temperature completely out of temperature range as per Indian standard, not cleaning cube molds, not using demolding agent, unstandard cube molds leading to unacceptable cube size, uncalibrated CTM, bad practices of testing cubes, like not placing the cubes properly and before applying a rate of loading, and all this will change the strengths of concrete. It will give different picture, and it will lead to different interpretations of concrete. Actual concrete strengths on poured concrete can go totally wrong if the concrete is tampered with addition of water, affecting the water cement ratio, and lack of supervision, especially neglecting quality of concrete during transportation, placing, compacting, finishing, and curing. We had a case in Hyderabad. I don't want to name the project actually. 2009, 2010, in one of the companies, where the concrete truck was M40 grade of concrete was need to wait for 4 to 5 hours every time when it comes to the site, and the problem was that we realized later, as the information did not come in time, that a lot of cubes were in question mark, cube strengths were in question mark because they had also added a lot of water. So the cores were taken from this particular site actually. A lot of cores were taken, and ultimately the strength of concrete was proved right, thanks to only the OPC fly ash mixes which we had used at that particular site for M40, because long-term strengths for a period of time, the strengths had gained more and more, and it had slowly passed the tests actually. And this was a very classic case where there was a absolute negligence on part of the site supervisors, led to trucks being kept in waiting for more than 4 to 5 hours, that to M40 concrete at hot temperatures, where in Hyderabad the temperature used to be at that time about 40 degrees to 45 degrees, and the trucks were waiting for a long time, and led to disaster actually. So even we understood that the columns were not cured properly. And this led to the problem actually. So we need to understand the misconception surrounding the strength of concrete is our own making actually, our own making on site mostly. Another misconception is chemical admixtures used by ready-mix concrete companies spoil the concrete. So chemical admixtures have a long history. The chemical admixtures came into being from 1930s onwards, where the lignosulfonate based admixtures came into being used actually, and then superplasticizer came, which we are using here in India, started being used elsewhere 1960s. SNF based admixtures came at that time actually, called superplasticizers, and then we graduated to the latest invention, fourth is also called fourth generation admixtures, 1986 onwards, where the PC molecules started being used in large quantities for both SCC and normal concrete. Now these chemical admixtures, coupled with retarding properties, have made concrete to be transported and placed even after 3.5 hours actually. So it gives good fluidity, it allows water to be reduced, and strengths are maintained better than non-admixtured concretes actually. Hence the benefits of chemical admixtures are multifold. There are a lot of other benefits also. Okay, there are various kinds of chemical admixtures. Okay, and hence I can say very clearly that ready-mix companies cannot produce good concrete and transport it for commercial use. Let us say 1.5 hours, 2 hours, 3 hours retention is required. So they cannot, no ready-mix company can produce concrete in a good way, in a acceptable way, without chemical admixtures. So chemical admixtures is a cost to the ready-mix company. So it is not that a ready-mix company just adds the chemical admixture just for the sake of it actually. It has a lot of benefits, and without this ingredient we cannot produce and deliver the concrete of right quality to the customers. That is the reason we use chemical admixture. Ready-mix producers use fly ash, and hence we get bad quality concrete. So you can say ready-mix concrete, somebody will say ready-mix concrete producers use fly ash, somebody will also say you are using GGBS, and hence we don't accept this concrete, we want only OPC. This kind of things we hear actually. Okay. Mineral admixtures like fly ash are industrial waste. GGBS is sourced from blast furnace waste of steel plant. These mineral admixtures, when mixed with concrete, participate in secondary hydration, which enhance the strength and durability in many ways. There are tons and tons of literature available. It is not new actually. Romans started using, not us actually. Romans started using 2000 years ago volcanic ash actually. So these mineral admixtures are not new at all. And earlier, in 2000, in the year 2000, many companies, reputed companies, started using this in hiding actually. They were not telling to the customer that we are using fly ash or GGBS, something like that. At that time, GGBS was not popular. Fly ash was being used secretly by some companies actually. So later on, we graduated to in 2000 to clearly print on the delivery ticket OPC plus PFA and tell to the customer the benefits of PFA, usage of PFA. And we used to bring the customers to our laboratory, show them the OPC PFA mixes, show them the data, both 28-day strength and long-term strength and things like that. And that is how OPC PFA mixes came into being. And we have seen in a lot of our long-term studies, RCPT studies and things like that, that most of the durability parameters either remain at the same level when compared to OPC or improved actually. So the pumpability, finishability, better long-term strengths, which is one of the most attractive point to a customer actually. And we have seen that in about 56 days to 90 days, there is a increase in strength of about 8 to 10 MPa in fly ash and GGBS mixes. And sometimes after we have got data where it shows that the strength of concrete has nearly moved from 1.75 to 2 times when we are using OPC, GGBS and OPC fly ash mixes. So the strength has almost doubled in 8 to 10 years. The secondary hydration continues to progress. And you can say some mixes, even when it has reached borders results. So let us say M25 concrete reaches for some reason FCK, that is 25 or 26. Okay, you are supposed to get 40 or 45 after you can say 365 days, 1 year or 1.5 years or 2 years. You are almost going to get about 40 newtons or 35 newtons. So this is a very attractive benefit. A customer purchases OPC PFA M25, OPC PFA or OPC GGBS mixes. He is going to end up with 1 or 2 grades higher when he is taking a OPC GGBS or OPC PFA mix. Improved permeability is there, overall durability is improved. These are the benefits of using OPC and fly ash, OPC GGBS mixes or OPC fly ash mixes. So there is no way a ready-mix company or ready-mix concrete company can move away from these supplementary cementitious materials, not only because of the economical reason, but because of the technical advantages it gives to the customer. The technical advantages these mineral mixtures give far outweigh any small problems that we encounter with mineral mixtures. The durability of blended concretes are either similar, generally better than OPC mixes. So when ready-mix companies use such industrial ways, they are giving customers better long-term strength, higher durable concrete. Considering the overall benefits they induce into concrete systems, they add new dimensions to concrete longevity and hence in a way render such concretes highly valuable. The concretes become more valuable. As I said, easily a customer gets 1 or 2 grades higher. So one other thing which we hear normally is ready-mix concrete show a lot of cracks and hence lead to water leakages. So here we need to understand that when we mix the concrete, no ready-mix company or no concrete producer wants to induce cracks in the body of concrete. It is an inherent property of concrete. When the temperature is more, high wind velocity is there, humidity is there during placing of concrete. If the evaporation rate exceeds the rate of bleeding, then plastic shrinkage and plastic settlement cracks can come. Okay, so when the rates become about 1 kg per meter square per hour, when the evaporation rates go to that level, especially tending from 0.5 onwards actually, once the rate of evaporation goes up above 0.5, there is a tendency to crack, and definitely the cracks will be coming surely if the evaporation rates exceed 1 kg of water per hour per meter square. So we have to stop concrete at that stage, or we have to protect the concreting area where from heat, wind velocity, and we should have humidity. We should have humidity. Otherwise, the unhumid atmosphere sucks the water from the concrete. So whenever something is escaping, something is coming out of the body of concrete, cracks will be shown. Actually, cracks will be shown. So this is not something which is induced. It is dependent on so many factors, especially the three factors which are important are temperature, wind velocity. Even on a cold day, when the temperatures are low, when the wind velocity is more, you will get cracks, and you will get cracks as you go higher. Say, for example, you have 11th floor, 12th floor, 13th floor, and there are no next buildings. Buildings are not next to your construction. There are no higher constructions. So there is no protection to the slab. The wind is blowing very fast onto the slab. So you will end up with cracks actually. So, like it is inseparable. Cracks are going to happen. Actually, we need to handle the cracks. How to handle the cracks? How to reduce the cracks is the question actually. Now, it is like I always used to tell to some of our people actually earlier in the earlier companies that in an organization, for example, you form a company, you are doing everything right in the company, but if the company, some people are very egoistic actually, very egoistic, and if the ego goes beyond the organizational needs, the cracks will develop between the company people. The relationship will be spoiled. Similarly, the cracks will come in a building if the operation rates are more and if it is not cared, if it is not taken care actually. Okay, now, so many of the times these are classified as non-structural cracks. However, since the open cracks can be pathways for water, oxygen, etc., it will lead to corrosion and possibly reduction and life cycle of the concrete. Hence, these have to be closed as early as possible using polymer mixed cement slurry or factory-made waterproofing systems like crack fillers, etc. The plastic shrinkage or plastic settlement cracks can be minimized by curing concrete immediately within 2 to 3 hours after placing using pesticide sprayers, covering with plastic sheets to prevent quick evaporation of water, retamping or revibrating the concretes whenever cracks occur when still in plastic state. Proper curing practices have to be followed. By doing all this, we can reduce or minimize to a great extent cracks actually. And you have these polypropylene fibers, steel fibers also, which can be used, which can be incorporated to reduce the plastic shrinkage and plastic settlement cracks. There are other methods like controlling evaporation rates using evaporation reducers are there, chemicals are there. There are shrinkage reducing admixtures, which can reduce the shrinkage and help to reduce the cracks. And we should also take care, placing concretes have to be done at lower temperatures and wind velocities. Generally, we used to recommend in climates where the temperatures are more, like for example in Chennai, we used to tell to the customers that you do the concreting in the evening times actually when the temperatures are low. When I was working in Oman and Saudi Arabia also, we used to tell that don't do the concreting when the temperature, ambient temperature is about 38 and 40 degrees. We used to tell them either you have to do before 11 o'clock in the morning and then do the concreting in the evening times, especially the big pours. And of course, in these countries, they used to use a lot of ice, chilled water to control the initial temperature of concrete until the pouring is done. And there used to be specified temperature of concrete at the point of placing actually. Surprisingly, in those hot climates where the temperatures used to be many times above 40 degrees, I'm talking about in the year 2003 to 2007 actually, there were no crack complaints actually. There never used to be complaints about cracks actually. It doesn't mean that cracks were not coming. crack used to be coming, they used to handle the cracks the way it has to be done. One of the methods suggested is retamping. When the fresh state, in the fresh state, you walk on the concrete and if you observe some cracks in the fresh state before complete hardening takes place because of quick evaporation of water, then you need to close the cracks by retamping or revibrating. Actually, this is one of the methods suggested. Okay. There are no crack-free concretes, we need to understand, guaranteed by any ready-mix companies. Also, ready-mix producers cannot supply 100% waterproof concrete. So let us say somebody orders M30 or M25 concrete. Is it the responsibility of the concrete producer to give 100% waterproof concrete? If that is the case, then why waterproofing systems? A lot of companies supplying waterproofing chemicals across India actually, or across the world actually. So concrete can be produced as per the grade, as per the slump, as per the consistency required by the customer, but it doesn't comes with a crack-free guarantee or waterproofness. Concrete is, as it is not waterproof. Even if you incorporate waterproofing admixtures, waterproofing materials, even if you do waterproofing treatment also, many times many other things can happen on site which will not give 100% waterproofing. So it is not the responsibility of the concrete producer to take care of the waterproofing aspect or cracks aspect. It is a combined activity which has to be done, and site supervision is of paramount importance actually. We have another misconception where many people across India, even now, they have this misconception that river sand only has to be used and manufactured sand should not be used. See, this manufactured sand came into being actually, or this word was coined actually in the early after 2000, where the stone crushing industry started using this VSI, vertical shaft impact crushers, where they started sieving and using some methodology of even washing the sand and things like that, and started giving this what is called as manufactured sand. Earlier also in IS 383 1970, they mention of crushed stone sand is there. So as long as the crushed stone sand, which is a byproduct of the stone industry, meets the requirements of IS 383 1970, both in terms of grading and any other properties mentioned there, there is no problem in using this one. And there was a lot of reports, one by Professor Venkataraman Reddy of Indian Institute of Science, where he did a lot of studies on the usage of manufactured sand or crushed stone sand, where he published his findings, telling that manufactured sand can be used for all the construction purposes, including plastering. So as long as it meets the requirements of IS code provisions, we can use, and we have done a lot of trials. The only problem with manufactured sand many times is that if the manufactured sand or the crushed stone sand has excess of fines below 150 microns, like say for example IS 383 has given the provision that 150 microns should not be more than 20%. So if sometimes there is a negligence on part of the manufacturer and he produces and sells a sand which is having more fines than what is specified, and if ready-mix companies start using such sands, then the water demand goes up very high, and then you will have all other problems both in fresh state and hardened state. So as long as we are careful about this, there is no problem in using the manufactured sand. The difference, basic difference between river sand and manufactured sand is in its shape actually, shape and texture. The river sand, because of weathering and because it travels along the water for a long time, so the sphericity of particles are maintained actually. The particles are spherical and many times it has good grading actually. Whereas this manufactured sand or crushed stone sand will not have that kind of spherical nature. and texture. And since it is crushed, actually, the texture is slightly different, and sometimes you may end up with slightly flaky particles, actually, which will reduce the slump or increase the water demand. So this can be overcome by using chemical admixtures. So whenever you are using a crushed stone sand, naturally the water demand may go up. Actually, it can be countered by using a good chemical admixture, or you can increase the chemical admixture dosage and use it. And many crushed stone sand manufacturers or manufactured sand manufacturers have also come up with clusters, and also which have been effectively used across India. Most importantly, we need to remember. Remember, a lot of restrictions have been placed on collecting natural sand from riverbeds. The manufactured sand has become a perfect replacement, completely replacing river sand in many areas of India, and partial replacement of river sand also are done in many other areas. Tons and tons of these materials are used not only for construction industry, concrete industry, but also for manufacturing glass, actually, river sand. So the entire flora fauna along the river bed is affected, actually, and we have a lot of other problems across the globe by using this natural sand. It is not a material which is going to last forever, actually. So we need to be careful and we need to be responsible, and then move easily to this the other alternative, which is the manufactured sand. Sometimes the fines passing through 150 microns and 75 microns seems to be fall out of the range of IS 383. That kind of sands preferably be aware of. This is the challenge for QA/QC engineers on site. This is the real challenge for the concrete producers, and they have to be careful about this front, actually. The increased surface area due to fines content going up because of shift from river sand to crushed stone sands is managed by reducing water cement ratio with the use of improved PC based high performance superplastizer. In short, the river sands has been successfully replaced by manufactured sands from aggregate industry. So this is a very important misconception, which has again has been many people think, and many people are under the impression that it is very easy to achieve. So just as a one of the incidents I just want to quote, actually. So about 4 years back, a rich man with about 8 or 10 bar and restaurants in Bangalore started talking to me. Sir, can we have a ready mix company? Yes, I said we can have a ready mix company. We can start a ready mix company, and for you it will make a very good combination, I told him. So what do you mean? He asked. See, what happens is, if let us say the salespeople of your ready mix company, ready mix plant, are selling good amount of concrete, okay, they can always sit in your bar and restaurant and enjoy, celebrate. On the other hand, if something goes wrong, if they are not able to sell, they can also, when you blast them for non-performance, then also they can sit in the bar and enjoy, okay, the sad moments, actually. So he was baffled, actually, by my answer. Then I told him, see, it is not the question of money that you have or money you can bring in. It is the question that whether you are committed to quality, whether you are interested in appointing good people on board. The quality control aspect is the most important aspect. What is the difference between one ready mix company and another ready mix company? Every ready mix company has a batching plant, which is as per IS 4925. Okay, so every ready mix company has infrastructure, a lot of trucks, a lot of pumps, everybody can procure. Where ready mix companies fall short is recruiting and training good people, actually. The good people in quality control department and other departments who are completely aware and knowledgeable about the different quality management systems and IS codes and codal provisions and what they meet, what they have to meet. That is the difference between a good ready mix company and a normal ready mix company. Okay, so as for the story goes, the owner dropped, the would-be owner dropped the idea, Here, the concrete is complicated subject, as with many different ingredients with an inbuilt degree of variability. We are trying to create a finished product of reasonable quality, meeting all the requirements of Indian standards. This is achieved with complete attention on to QA/QC, three different aspects: forward control, set of all activities before production; intermediate control, activities and controls that are at the point of production; retrospective control, set of all activities done after production. So these are three pillars of QA/QC systems in a ready-mix company. It is mentioned in IS 4926 also. So it is not easy actually. Each of these pillars, I can say, forward control has a lot of other activities, from starting from selection of materials, mix design, testing of materials as per frequency, both internal testing and external testing, and it is also has to be followed. It has to be followed by good intermediate control and retrospective control also. So it is not a simple thing to make a consistently good concrete with even a modern batching plant, with a modern batching plant as per IS 492625. Which is made as per IS 4925. It is not easy unless you have all the quality control systems in place. You have trained professional people on board in the quality control department. It is not an easy job. QA/QC staff of ready-mix concrete company continuously struggle to achieve the best quality. I'll just give an example here. Even though I have to just quickly give an example here. See, about 3 years back, in my previous company, we had a complaint of low strengths in a ready-mix company. Okay, so when we started investigating, the OPC GGBS mixes were giving very low 7-day strengths, actually, very low 7-day strengths. So when we gave the cement sample to laboratories, 4 or 5 laboratories we came to know that the fineness is at least 15 to 20% lesser than MTCs given by cement producer. So MTC given by cement producer is talking about 320 meter square per kg. Whereas what we found in different labs, various labs, 4 samples were given to 4 various labs. It was giving 260, 280, 270, like this lesser fineness of cement. Same brand of cement which the person was using for 4 or 5 years. So the reactivity was lower. 7-day strengths were lower. Ultimately, he got the 28-day strength. That is a different matter. But the customers started jumping. Actually, customers started panicking actually. So it is a challenge on a day-to-day basis when there are a lot of inconsistent materials are there. Sand coming with different fineness, cementitious metals coming with different fineness, different properties. Same brand of cement coming from different plants having different properties. So it becomes a day-to-day challenge for a ready-mix producer, especially the QA/QC engineer. So he has to be working overnight 24/7 looking at all these materials, and he should be completely trained and aware of these minor changes or major changes which occur in ingredients of concrete. So that is a big challenge for ready-mix producer. So unless people are committed and people are well trained, the quality control in a ready-mix company is not easy. There is another misconception which many times we encounter. Customer starts talking about the mix design and he will tell what we have to use. Okay. It is like going to a hotel and asking a chef to bring the atta and do as per we want actually. So like say for example, we go to a hotel and we ask him to do. Will he do that? Actually, he will not do that actually. Okay, that is a different matter actually. So when we are talking about mix design, any ready-mix company, qualified ready-mix company, QCA certified ready-mix company have the capability to do the mix design. They choose the target slump, choose the maximum aggregate size, estimate water and air content, select water cement ratio, calculate cement content, estimate the coarse aggregate content, fine aggregate content, all these are done, and big designs are done, and they know how to do this actually. Once you choose a ready-mix supplier, it is your responsibility to communicate your performance requirements. We need to tell as a customer what is required both in plastic and hardened state. Only then the supplier can work with you to provide the mix that will achieve the desired result. You should know the fundamentals of concrete mix design as a customer or a user of concrete, but it is best to leave the exact proportions to your ready mix producers. It is very, very important as a customer to leave the mix design part to the producer, because the QAQC person, QAQC in charge of a ready mix company, maybe 20 years or 15 years or 5 years experience, he's daily using the ingredients and he knows what to do, what material to use, what is the dosage of admixture, what kind of what brand of cement he has to use to get the best properties, best slump retention and best strength. So other countries, preferably many countries, other countries, they leave this more to the ready mix producer, but many times we find customers defining all this. It will tie the hands and legs of the customer, sorry, hands and legs of the ready mix companies, and many times it puts the ready mix company into a spot. Actually, many problems we face because of this kind of prescription given by the customers. A reputable supplier will welcome your feedback. If you give feedback on mix design, anything, a ready mix company will welcome. We modify the mix to meet your needs. In some cases, even slight modifications can make a big difference. That is also very important. Feedback of customers on these things are also important. Misconception on no samples, number of samples, sampling, etc. So we have a lot of misconceptions how to take samples, how many samples have to be taken and things like that. We have talked already about how the sampling method is defined in not only Indian code and other codes also. Rate of sampling as per IS 4926 is very important. It very clearly states one sample for every 50 cubic meter of production or every 50 batches, whichever is greater. So when you are doing a site mix concrete, when you have a site mix concrete or volumetric batching and all, earlier people used to refer IS 456 for this actually. So there is no need for reference of IS 456 in this actually. That is our opinion. We can go directly onto this 4926 where it talks about minimum sampling is about for every 50 meter cube or 50 batches, whichever is greater, one sample has to be taken. So what is one sample? One sample is 3 test specimens at 28 days. So if extra is required, somebody wants to have 7 days, somebody wants to have 3 days, somebody wants to have 1 day, that is all extra cubes, and this has to be agreed in a bigger project. In a bigger project, we need to agree upon this one. But normal projects, like the normal accepted practice throughout India is 3 cubes for 7 days, 3 cubes for 28 days. Okay, so for every 50 cubic meters. So if you have a CP30 plant where the batching plant per cycle it produces 0.5 cubic meter, then you have to go for every 25 cubic meters one sample. One sample means 3 cubes for 28 days, and if you want to take additionals for 7 days, it is 6 cubes. So this has to be taken from single truck. This has to be taken from a single truck, as we defined earlier as a composite sample. So some people have some customers come up with the idea that I will take every cube in every truck. One cube I will take in one truck. So these are all you can say whims and fancies, and some people want to just for their own unimaginable assumptions. They will talk about these things, but this is all not valid, not only in India, elsewhere throughout the world actually. The other codes like BS and ASTM codes also speak about the sampling. The sampling rates in BS EN 12350 is for every cubic meter, every 100 cubic meter of concrete, one set of cubes of about 6 cubes you can take. And even ASTM speaks for about 100 cubic yard, every 100 cubic yard you have one set of tubes. So we were doing concrete for a Japanese project in Oman actually. The specifier, it was done on British specification, and the specifier was in the project specification. It was written 7 tubes for every 100 cubic meters. 7 150 by 150 tubes for every 100 cubic meters of concrete. So one tube was tested at 3 days, 3 for 7 days, and another 3 for 28 days. So this was the specification given by a Japanese consultant based on BS specification for every 100 cubic meters. So we need to be realistic and not sadistic actually. See, each tube, for example, tube mold weighs about 8 to 10 kgs, sometimes 12 kgs. Concrete weighs 8 to 9 kgs. So unless otherwise somebody has wants to get a sadistic pleasure, unless otherwise he's a normal human being, we should not go on taxing the labor to move around with several set of tubes. It is the accuracy and the precision with which tubes are cast that is more important than number of tubes. You can go on casting tubes and you will all end up in misinterpretation of tube results actually. So better to do minimum number of tubes, stick to IS 4926 and start understanding the concrete production and quality control based on the frequency given in IS 4926. This is a beautiful book actually. This man says like this actually: any intelligent fool can make things bigger, more complex, more violent. It takes a touch of a genius and a lot of courage to move in the opposite direction. So there is no point in casting too big things and too many tubes. Let us stick to minimum number of tubes, minimum number of samples, and start analyzing and interpreting in a proper way. The absolute today may become tomorrow's oblivion. So what we think today as the fact may become a false statement later on. Earlier, for example, 30 years back, if somebody in concrete used to tell there will be concrete after 30 years or 40 years where you don't need compaction, no need to use vibrator. So somebody would have laughed actually. Okay, so today we are seeing SCC concrete being used throughout the world. Okay, so the absolute today may become tomorrow's oblivion. Thank you all. I appreciate time of all the participants. You have any questions? You can ask us now, or you can also write to us later. And I thank through this platform to thank once again Dr. Radhakrishnan, HOD of RVC Civil Engineering Department, Mr. Dhanush, and Dr. L.R. Manjunatha, ICI, for giving this opportunity. I also thank our MD Shelly Fernandez for encouraging me to speak on this forum. Thanks a lot. Any questions you can ask? Any questions? We can take some questions.
Yes, sir. First of all, thank you for the session, sir. It was, very insightful into the RMC industry. Most of the questions that has been asked has actually been answered by you in a way. So I'll try and skip those and ask other few questions. So the first question is, it is actually, I think, a bit of a industry based. Sir, if an RMC truck entered the site, but due to the weather on that day, we can't do concreting, who is responsible for the concrete? Is it the RMC plant or the client? And what is the remedial measure in such a case?
So RMC truck, see today, for example, let us say today in Bangalore, we are producing concrete actually. So once the truck goes out of the premises, okay, the customer has already ordered the concrete. Once the truck leaves the plant actually, okay, so he will go through traffic, and if he reaches the site, if the truck reaches the site, even if it is raining or whatever it is the responsibility of the customer to either check whether he can use the concrete or he can use somewhere else, but it is his responsibility. It is, for example, I will give another example. See, ready-mix concrete, I will always compare this with ice industry actually. Ice, for example, your ice, once it is ordered actually, you have ordered 200 kgs of ice. Okay, so ice has a shelf life actually. So it is not the responsibility of the ice manufacturer to keep it eternally in the condition that it has to be used actually. So ice has a shelf life, ready-mix concrete has a shelf life. It has to be used within that one. Before ordering, you have to check actually. Sometimes it may be possible that you can say what is called as act of God, something can go wrong actually. So after reaching the site, something wrong happens actually. Ultimately, it is the responsibility of the customer to take care of the particular concrete. Let us say the higher grade concrete has come to the customer. So 2 trucks are waiting and heavy rain, he cannot do anything. So the best thing that he can do is he can sign and he can just sign on the invoice and accept that accept the concrete for a lower rate and use it somewhere else. Okay. So ultimately it is the responsibility of the user once the truck reaches the site. Yeah.
The next question is, why do we prefer PCE based admixtures these days and we've stopped using the other kinds?
See, PC based admixtures have been evolved from 1980 onwards with a lot of research and a lot of thinking. Trials have gone into this subject actually, where the molecules have been manipulated to perform better actually. The molecules, PC molecules have been designed by many PC manufacturers to work in such a way that it will give tremendous water reduction up to about between 35 to 40% and good slump reduction up to 3.5 hours, 4 hours. And early strengths also. Many times you can get early strengths if you want, and this can be manipulated. I mean to say, manufactured at a nano level, so that it will give the tailor-made properties as per the requirements of the customers, and the negative charges that are deposited on the cement particles, which will give tremendous amount of dispersion, is unmatched by other base admixtures. I mean to say, the other admixtures like SNF based admixture and all, they cannot match in terms of dispersion, giving dispersion, hence water reduction and things like that. And lot of work has been going on in PC admixtures for last, you can say, 20-25 years, where they some of the companies started making you can say concrete is produced at about 150 mm. It will be 130 or 140 mm even after 3 hours. Such kind of slump retentions can be achieved by you can say selecting good chemistry and good molecules of PC admixture. Also, another point which has worked in favor of PC admixture nowadays is the advent of large scale usage of manufactured sand, where the water demand has become more. That was countered by usage of good PC based admixture. By using PC based admixture, we could able to control the water demand of concretes with crushed stone sands or manufactured sands. So earlier the water demand was lesser, now the water demand is slightly more. That is easily handled by usage of PC admixtures. That is the advantage of PC admixtures. That is how PC admixtures have become more popular. But the flip side of this one is people have to be very careful with PC admixtures. It will not allow, you can say, nonsense in terms of moisture correction and all. Any small deviation in moisture correction and all, heavy bleeding and things like that will take place, and it will become difficult to handle and pump actually. Yeah.
The next question is, are there any practices that you can suggest that will help prevent wastage of water in an RMC plant?
See, many of the RMC plants, we have this slurry management system, which is part of our quality management system, where the slurry water is used actually. We mix slurry water with regular water and use in many of our plants actually. And also the slurry water, let's say, for example, we need to send this for testing, okay, for complaints as per AS. Okay, sometimes it happens that for some reason, if it is not complying, we start using this for sprinkling on our floors, concrete floors, to contain the dust and things like that. So this is one important point. Another point is the wastage produced in terms of leftover cement slurry and mortar. All these things are dumped in selected places, and every 15 days or 1 week it is sent to selected places, good places, where the people who are carrying this material will use this metal as landfill and things like that. And we were more conscious about this one, and this is in the days to come, this subject will be handled in a better way than today actually. So in short, I can say we are very conscious, and we don't dump the slurry and all wherever it is. We use slurry water for mixing with concrete actually, and then also in many cases we use this for containing the dust in our own yards. And thirdly, the wastage produced both in terms of wasted concrete and mortar and slurry are dumped in selected pre-appointed places actually. So we are having a very well-defined quality management system to completely take care of this waste management.
The next question is, I think, by someone called Pulaya. He says that they had recently cast a retaining wall, and there seemed to be a very delayed setting of up to 3 to 5 days, due to which they couldn't do de-shuttering, and it created a lot of problems. What could be the possible reason for this delayed setting?
So delayed setting generally, one of the major reasons for delayed setting will be higher dosage of admixture. Okay, sometimes the dosage can go higher if the equipment, the dispenser, the admixture dispenser has not worked well or malfunctioned, or calibration has not taken place in time actually. So in such a case, admixture dosage can go more actually. Secondly, some admixtures have a tendency to settle, and solid content will become more, especially in winters. If the admixture, see, whenever we are using admixtures, we have to steer it using a automatic stirrer or manual steering by any of these methods before usage actually. So if this is not stirred, sometimes there will be settlement of solids, and if the solids are used directly, then the dosage will be higher, and sometimes it will lead to retardations. Secondly, compatibility of admixture with a particular brand of cement also plays a vital role. Most important thing which we need to remember is there is a see, you are also using these admixtures. You have to transport the concrete for about 2 hours, 3 hours, something like that, and many times most of these mixes are done with OPC GGPS or OPC PFA mixes. So here what is happening is you have one OPC plus PFA, retardation is coming from there. Means delayed setting happens because the primary reaction, that is OPC plus water, has to react, then secondary hydration has to take place. In addition to that one, you are adding another admixture, another chemical, which is with retardation. So all this will enhance the retardation or prolong the retardation, sometimes to a very great extent. So sometimes we need to be understanding one particular point. You know, these OPC GGBS mixes and PFA mixes with chemical admixtures have brought to us unimaginable benefits actually. The benefits of these combinations cannot be understated, or you can say you cannot undervalue the benefits that we are getting out of these metals. So sometimes these accidents happen. We should be having a lot of patience and understand that, okay, instead of the de-shuttering in 2 days or 1 day, we may have to de-shutter in 3 days or 48 hours. And we may have to wait for slightly, instead of testing the cubes on 7 days, we may have to test the cubes on 9th day or 11th day. We need to remember one important point here. Very, very important point is all these retardant mixes, if it has happened, especially with chemical admixture dosage or something like that, these retarded admixtures, retarded concretes have many times proved to be having more ultimate strengths, 28 strengths and beyond, higher strengths it has reached when compared to non-retarded mixes actually. So it also comes with a benefit actually. The only thing is sometimes, okay, your job cycle is slightly reduced, but you have the advantage that your ultimate strengths are always improved when compared to non-retarded conventional superplastic concrete actually. So considering the different benefits that you get when you are using OPC GGBS in combination with admixture, or OPC PFA in combination with a superplastism and retarding admixture, sometimes you have to forgive this kind of mistakes that happen actually on field. Yeah.
I think most of the other questions are covered in the way you presented, sir. I think one last question would be, what would be the approximate cost to start an RMC plant in a city like Bangalore?
I think the person has to come and meet me in private. No, thank you. See, this is not a commercial discussion. We should not discuss on this public forum all these things actually. Yeah.
I have. Thank you so much, sir. I now request Dr. Radhakrishna to take over and say a few words.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Before I conclude, I have one question to Engineer Kaushika. First of all, thank you very much, Engineer Kaushika. I want to know approximately how many years it will take to become full RMC as SCC in your experience.
Tell me once again. Can you tell me once again, sir? Tell me.
When will the full RMC become SCC in India?
Sir, the role here in conversion of RMC to SCC is in the hands of really consultants actually. So like say in Japan and Europe, especially Japan, you can say about 3 years back, 60 to 70% of total production of ready-mix concrete used to be SCC concrete actually, in a small country like Japan, and many of the European countries also have started moving faster to SCC. So like the benefits are immense actually of SCC. For example, if somebody buys M25 normal concrete and if somebody buys M25 SCC, definitely is getting higher durable concrete. We all know that actually. So if the consultants, all the consultants, major consultants in every city starts insisting on SCC, maybe 5 to 10 years, the normal concrete will be out actually. Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you very much, sir. Thank you very much for your answer. I think the session was quite interesting. Thank you very much for sharing your experience. I think you have a lot of experience. I think the time was not available to you to discuss everything. And in fact, due to some urgent meeting, I joined late, but I gained knowledge with halfway. Very much. I think this lecture was useful to the young budding engineers as well as those who are already practicing as engineers. It is need of the hour. Thank you very much. I hope this will go a long way. So please organize more lectures, be online, and share more knowledge, sir. Thank you very much. On behalf of ICI and RV College of Engineering, I thank you very much for sharing the knowledge. Thank you.
Thanks, Dr. Radhakrishna. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate all the participants for taking time on a Saturday and listening to us. Thanks a lot. Namaste. Thank you. Thanks.
Thank you very much. Thank you all.
Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you.
Bye. Bye.